Welcome back, readers, to Chapter by Chapter. In the last chapter of Lightlark, not much happened. Isla exposition to the audience about stuff we should have been told in Chapter 1, and swears an oath she already agreed to. Also, Oro does not know how chairs work. We open to Isla ready to be released into the world, to explore on her own for the first time. We get a description of her makeup, and the few dresses in her trunk looked more like a collection of sewn-together ribbons. Sheer, bare, and so smooth they looked liquid. In the wildling realm, in the constant seclusion of her chambers, she could get away with wearing loose, soft clothes. But this was the Centennial, and Poppy had chosen these gowns for a reason that made Isla want to throw them in the closest fireplace. Two things here. First, Isla is about 19. And I had to look that up. The text doesn't say exactly how old she is, which makes this a little uncomfortable, since she could definitely be a minor here. And look, in this country, you have to be 21 to legally drink. But it's not magic. When you're 20 years, 51 weeks, 6 days, 23 hours, and 59 minutes, you aren't less mature than the second you turned 21. But as a society, we have to put that line somewhere. The same is true here. But no matter the age of majority in Lightlark, for us readers, it's going to be about 18 by default. And there's something vaguely icky about this, because there's an implied grooming of a minor by Poppy, and Isla is clearly also feeling a bit grossed out. Second, and I fully understand this runs counter to the first point, the opening chapter says that wildlings were proud of their bodies, and often wore few if any clothes. And so far, she's had no problem arriving in gauze, and going to a formal dinner dripping wet in a see-through fabric. Where did this sudden burst of modesty come from? That day she chose a dress in the pink of tulips, with a plunging back and fabric that clung to her like it was wet. It was a tradition to wear the colors of one's power source. Starlings wore silver, sunlings wore gold, skylings wore blue, nightshades wore black, and moonlings wore white. Someone really needs to sit Aster down and tell her that her readers are not, in fact, complete idiots who need every detail written out like a grocery list. How many lists are in this book? But nature was multicolored, and Isla was not bound to one shade, as long as she did not infringe upon anyone else's. So that's 2 metallics, a black, blue, and white off the board. But all the other colors belong to the special sunflower. And so after that, Isla answers the door, and I really hope this was intended to be this silly. Especially from someone who claimed to be very good at reading people. She starts by demanding her attendant's name because she hasn't bothered to learn it until now. Isla is so glad when she gets an answer to this very difficult question, bragging she learned to be undercover by spying on people. Then she notes the girl has a limp, the girl who is still convinced that Isla is a heart-eating monster. Poor thing is clearly scared she's about to be breakfast. Isla has another as you know moment to tell the audience that moonlings are full waterbenders and who can also heal. But there's a cost, and poor little Ella can't pay it, as the curses have caused so many to lose their powers. Oh, and the person Isla, who is about 19, has been calling girl, is almost 25 years old. And as a starling, she's going to die soon anyway. That's some weird internal misogyny there. Anyway, Isla gives her a healing paste made from wildling flowers. And by gives, I mean she basically forces Ella to take it, and then promptly demands a favor in return. This is one of those moments I can't decide how I'm supposed to take this. Until now, when Isla declared she was a good judge of people, it was played straight, laid out in as, yes, she just is, which is fine. It's not a great talent to go with her background, but for a minor special protagonist power, it's fine. But now we have this scene, where Isla is clearly not reading the room, to the point she terrorizes a woman into thinking she's about to be breakfast, forces medication she didn't ask for on her, and declares the favor is owed in kind. What's Ella gonna do? Tell Princess Hearteater to bugger off? And what impact is this mixed impression going to have on future scenes in the story? The scene cuts, and the first line tells us that this bit of comedy was so that Ella would bring Isla regular meals. Kind of an odd, roundabout way to do it, but okay. Again, she's royalty. She could just ask and bribe her for silence. So Isla has an appointment with the tailor. Because every ruler can only bring so much, they get a specialty wardrobe. Again, fine. Kinda wonder how Oro will factor into this, but it isn't a huge thing. She heard Poppy in her ear. Your dresses are your armor. Your jewels are your weapons. They are the tools of a seductress. It was the role Poppy had trained her for. Again, she's about 19. Poppy has been grooming her to seduce men for years. Christ. Okay, I'm a big fan of paranormal romance, and age gap is just kinda one of those tropes that you can't really avoid when one of your characters is a vampire or whatever. That's not what bothers me here. In most paranormal romances, it's about a woman finding her power. Taming the beast, if you will. Also, they are adults, usually around 25, and making their own choices. Isla was held in isolation while being trained in seduction. They trained a minor to seduce grown men. And then we run face first into the problem of the last scene. She might not have powers, but that didn't mean she was powerless. She could blend in, listen, hide, strategize. All skills her and Celeste's plan required. Can she? Because she just demonstrated she, in fact, cannot. So why should I believe her? I can't tell if Isla is an unreliable narrator, or if Aster just does not understand the implications of her scenes. And she's now trying to sneak around the Agora in a skin-tight tulip pink gown. I'm going to assume unreliable narrator for now. She runs into Grimm, or more to the point, he sneaks up on her unobservant ass. Apparently Nightshade's curse is to not go out at night, which is inconvenient. Yes, they are nocturnal people, but they aren't forced to live on very rare resource or die barely into adulthood as a matter of course. These curses are very uneven in their impact. He declares that he has business in the Agora and they can walk together. The guards are afraid of Grimm, so is Isla, because Grimm has a reputation. Terra always said they were the most dangerous of the realms. Nightshade drew power from darkness, while all the others drew from light. Rumors of their abilities abound. The power to disappear, move through walls, spin nightmares, wield darkness itself. Grimshaw had a reputation. There had been a war between Lightlark and Nightshade, just decades before the curses were spun. He had been the most fearsome warrior. It was rumored that by the end of a battle, his cloak was always soaked through with the blood of his enemies, which only made his clear discomfort with Isla eating a heart at dinner more confusing. Aster is tempting me with a good time, but how is Nightshade any more terrifying than any of the rest of them? Wildlings can change ecosystems with a thought. Moonlings are just avatar waterbenders, so they can probably turn the water in your blood against you. Skylings, I assume, control air, so could snatch the air right out of your lungs. I could go on, but my point is that all of these people are way overpowered. Or the older ones have vastly exaggerated their powers to the younger generation for some reason. And why would Grimm's rumored battle prowess make him okay with heart-eating? He isn't a vampire, and stabbing someone isn't the same as cannibalism. Isla speculates on Grimm's motive for attending and how everyone will want him dead. Which, if he is that fearsome of a warrior, good luck to them. Grimm reveals he can read emotions, and Isla thinks that this will somehow destroy her plans. Plans she has not shared with us yet. Mind abilities were common in Nightshade. It was part of what made them so dangerous. Rulers also often had an additional ability. Rare powers carried through bloodlines, popping up generations later. They had nothing to do with stars, moon, sun, nature, darkness, or sky. Isla wondered if on top of this, Grimm had one of those. Gods, these people keep getting more and more overpowered. If everyone is god-tier powerful, what is the point? Also, there's a lot of telling what people can do, and not a lot of showing. Grimm notices Isla is nervous and asks why. Because apparently, despite being a half-millennium-old badass, he doesn't realize telling a 19-year-old he just met that he can read her emotions might put her a wee bit on edge. She asks if he has a flare, which is the additional power rulers can have, and he says he does, but it's not something he could secretly use on her. The hill ended, the grass stopped, and below in the valley between two mountains sat a marketplace. First, yes, that's the definition of a valley. Second, how far outside the city is there agora to be placed between two mountains? Or are the mountains part of the city? What is the geography of this place? Did they not walk through the city to get to the market? Grimm calls her Heart Eater and asks if she can eat chocolate. She can. They head into the marketplace, and Isla wonders why all the commoners are going about their lives instead of, I don't know, huddling in fear? Because a realm might die, even though you idiots haven't made progress in 500 years? The agora was made up of tiny homes, all pushed together and as different as each of the realms. One shop resembled a turned-over teacup, its walls made of frosted glass. Another stood as tall as a redwood, smoke spilling from its chimney like a string of storm clouds. The next was held up on stilts. Yet another resembled a star roped down from the heavens, silver and glittering. Points for creativity, though saying it was made of tiny houses and 2 sentences later, saying one was as tall as a redwood is at odds. They go into a shop shaped like an ornament, and Grimm feels the need to nearly rip the door off its hinges. Skylings make good chocolate. Cocoa comes from a tree, you'd think that'd be a wildling thing. This is the chocolate feeding scene I've heard about. Grimm orders 2 of everything and feeds Isla chocolate. Before she could ask for clarification, he plucked a truffle between 2 enormous fingers. Try this one first. She tentatively took it, chewed it, and her eyes bulged. Divine, isn't it? Isla sank into her chair, her head lolling back. She shouldn't have been wasting precious time on chocolate tasting, but getting to know the Nightshade, perhaps getting him to trust her, could be useful. She closed her eyes, caramel on her tongue. Wake me up when this is all over. A chuckle. Eyes still closed, she felt something rough against her lips. Open. She did, and Grimm dropped another truffle against her tongue. This one had a berry cream filling, a hard outer shell. Isla tried every single one he offered her. The fudge, the mint thins, a banana and butter bar, everything except the chili pepper powder praline. Okay, I'm not going to yuck anyone's yum here. What any one person finds sexy is really an individual thing. And I get that there are limits to the horniness a young adult book can have. That said, this scene is weird. Whether you know the twist or not, what Aster is going for here is the first bit of playful intimacy between the naive princess and her dark prince. But the whole scene only lasts about half a page, and he only actually feeds her 2 pieces before the rest is hand-waved away, and Isla's focus is mostly on the chocolate. This is the sort of scene that needs to linger and build, like chocolate melting on your tongue. First he offers her one, then hands her the next. Then he playfully holds up a piece of fudge, velvety and firm. She wonders what his game is. Why is he being nice? The next piece he places in her mouth, something hard that bursts salty over her tongue. Finally he gives her the last piece, his finger lingering on her lips just a moment too long to be an accident. But it's too spicy, and he has to get her some milk, the white liquid dripping down her chin in her haste. As I was saying, this is the sort of scene that sets the romance in motion. But there's no conversation here, no questioning of motives. Grimm just feeds her a few pieces and then laughs at her for not liking the spicy one. I have no idea if not liking spice is a meta joke or not, but it kind of feels like one. Their little chocolate flirt over, they head to the tailor's for Isla's appointment, and for some reason we get a description of the street that was not mentioned before. The streets were filled with dozens of torches dug into the stone, burning even though the day was warm and the sun out. Sunling guards seem to be in charge of keeping them lit, fire curling from their palms. Sunlings can't be out in the sun, it's their ironic curse. But don't let the details of the world slow your roll. Grimm drops her off and vanishes. The tailor is a starling, and because starlings pull their power from the stars, they can float objects around. Because celestial objects seem to move, I guess? That is a stretch and seems terribly underpowered compared to the rest of them. The tailor magics her up a dress like a Disney movie, and Grimm reappears inside the shop. That's not at all creeper behavior. She tells the tailor to have armor made, which seems like the wrong profession for that, but I guess magic clothes can work as armor? They leave the shop, and Grimm tells her his demonstration is first, and advises her to get a sword. In chapter. If you are rereading the book, or know what happens in broad strokes, you'll probably catch a few things in this chapter. Like how Isla calls Grimm's dimples stupid in a familiar way without having mentioned them before. Or how quickly she becomes comfortable with a complete stranger to the point of him using his invisibility powers to spy on her naked gets almost no reaction. There is a reason for that, and I'll burn that bridge when I cross it. For now, I can say at least the plot feels like it's moving. The island of Lightlark still feels nebulous and unplanned. Chunks of the island appear as needed within an otherwise undescribed void. I have noticed that everyone walks, even the royalty. There is no mention of horses or vehicles of any kind, thus far. Which is a choice to be made, and there's nothing wrong with it. The advantage of stuffing your characters into a vehicle is that you can skim past descriptions of what's happening outside because it's moving too fast or they have closed the blinds for privacy. Whatever. By making characters walk, they must interact with the world, giving the advantage of fleshing out the world as the characters move through it. But Aster did neither. She has two characters that, if Isla is to be believed, are universally hated by every person on the island. But they just walk and talk, and the world breezes past. No comment on the architecture or the people, until they arrive at the Agora, when the world snaps back into place. And then there is Grimm and the rumors about him. Once again, Aster does not seem to grasp the logistics of making an entire world of immortals. Unless the character is a starling, or born in the last 500 years, they were there. They remember. Framing these as rumors is like my grandfather telling me rumors about World War II instead of his actual experiences. It is entirely possible that Terra fought on the side of Lightlark, that she stood across the battlefield from Grimm and witnessed his power with her own eyes. So why couch it as a rumor or hearsay to Isla? Finally, there's the implied grooming by Poppy, which could have easily been less icky by making Isla older. With people 500 years and more still hanging around in their prime, age is just a number. Isla could easily be 50 or 90 and not change the story in a meaningful way. With such an extended lifespan, puberty could easily start later in life, say 25, and full adulthood not reached until 40. That would still leave her young compared to those around her, without the yuck factor of teaching a minor the art of seduction. And while I'm on the subject, I want to point out how unhinged and clumsy this seduction plan sounds. Oro, who I assume is the one she's supposed to seduce, is over 500 years old. His love would mean sharing his power. All four of them. He's hostile and paranoid, and not without reason. Isla is very unlikely to be the first person to sashay up to him in a tight dress. Even if Isla had been trained her whole life, again, ew, to our knowledge, she's never actually put it into practice. There's no way she could realistically pull this off, and Poppy would have to know that. At this point, Isla's not even doing a good job flirting with her love interest. I can't imagine what a limp fish she will be with someone she's not interested in. So join me next time when we hopefully see what Grimm can really do.